My parents refused to take me to the hospital when I went into labor. "We're busy with your brother's engagement party," they said. "Figure it out." I gave birth alone and cut ties 3 months later. My mom called, panicked, asking why the bank had frozen their account. I smiled and said, "Ask your favorite child." I don't know if I ever truly belonged in my family. Maybe I was just the extra piece in a puzzle that had already been completed. My parents never outright said it, but I felt it. My younger brother, Daniel, was their pride and joy. Everything he did was amazing. Everything he wanted was important. Meanwhile, I learned early on that my needs were an afterthought. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what happened when I went into labor. Let me back up a little. I got pregnant at 21. It wasn't planned, and the father bailed the moment he found out. I was scared, of course, but I was ready to face the challenge. I thought maybe this would finally make my parents see me, maybe they'd realize I matter too. Oh, how naive I was. The beginning of the end came when Daniel got engaged around the same time I was preparing for my due date. My parents were ecstatic. They threw him a huge engagement party, one of those fancy country club type events with expensive catering, live music, and personalized decorations. I, on the other hand, had been waddling around in the background, very much ignored. The day of his engagement party, I started feeling off. At first, I thought it was just discomfort, but then the pain came strong and fast. My water broke right there in the middle of our living room. I panicked. I grabbed my phone and called my mom, who was already at the party setting things up. "Mom, it's happening. I need to go to the hospital," I said. There was silence, and then with the most casual voice, she said, "We're really busy right now. Can't you figure it out?" I felt my heart drop. "Mom, please," I begged. She cut me off. "I can't deal with this right now, okay? Call an Uber or something. We'll talk later." And then she hung up. I stood there, gripping my phone, staring at the wall like I had just been struck by lightning. They weren't coming, they weren't going to come. I had never felt more alone in my life. I gave birth alone. The contractions were getting unbearable, but I had no choice. I somehow managed to order an Uber, gripping my belly and trying not to scream in the back seat while the driver threw me nervous glances. I barely made it to the hospital in time. The nurses rushed me in, and I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, all alone. No mother held my hand, no father paced in the hallway, no family waited outside the door. I remember looking at my daughter, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and making a decision. This is it, I'm done. The next day, I blocked their numbers. When they finally reached out days later, I ignored them. When they tried to visit, I refused to see them. And then, 3 months later, my mother called me in full panic. "Why is the bank freezing our account?" she asked. While my parents had spent years ignoring me, they had never ignored my money. I had a trust fund, nothing crazy, but enough to be comfortable. My grandparents had set it up before they passed, and my parents had managed it while I was a minor. The catch was that it became fully mine the moment I turned 22. I had just turned 22 a month before giving birth, and so, with the help of a lawyer, I did what I should have done a long time ago. I cut them off financially. They had been using my trust fund to help pay for Daniel's engagement party. They had been using my money for years, dipping into it like it was their personal piggy bank. But now it was gone. When my mother called, her voice was full of panic. "Why is the bank freezing our account? Why can't we access the money?" I took a deep breath, smiling as I held my daughter close. "Ask your favorite child," I said, and then I hung up. For a few days after that call, things were quiet, too quiet. I expected my phone to blow up, but it didn't. No more frantic calls, no more messages. I should have known that they were planning something. It all exploded one morning when I opened my front door to grab a package and found my mother standing there. She looked rough, hair messy, no makeup, stress lines creasing her forehead. She didn't even say hello, she just pushed past me and walked inside like she owned the place. "What the hell?" I snapped, following her in. She turned on me, her face twisted with anger. "How dare you, Sophia?" Oh, now she remembered my name. "You froze our money, are you insane?" I laughed, actually laughed. "Our money?" "No, Mom, my money. The money you weren't supposed to touch in the first place." She scoffed. "Do you have any idea what you've done? We have bills, Sophia. We have responsibilities, your father and I." I cut in, "You mean Daniel, because let's be honest, Mom, that's who you're really worried about. You can't pay for his wedding anymore, can you?" She flinched but recovered fast. "That's not the point. We're a family, family shares. You're punishing us over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I hissed. My voice shook, but I refused to back down. "You left me to give birth alone, Mom. You told me to figure it out while you played hostess at his party. So no, I don't owe you anything." Her eyes darkened for a moment, I thought she might slap me. Then she did something worse, she smiled, a cold, cruel smile. "Oh, honey," she said softly, "you don't know what you've just started." And then she left. I had no idea what she meant until I got served court papers 3 days later. The lawsuit, my parents were suing me. Apparently, they had been withdrawing from my trust fund under the assumption that I was okay with it. Now they were trying to argue that because they had used the money for family expenses, I had no right to take it away from them. It was ridiculous. But the real punch to the gut was that Daniel had joined the lawsuit. After everything, I thought maybe, just maybe, he would have some human decency. Maybe he'd say, "Hey, this is too much." Nope, he was right there in the legal paperwork, claiming that some of the money had gone toward helping me when I was younger. Since they'd used it to feed and house me when I was a kid, I owed them. I wanted to scream, but instead, I called my lawyer. The family smear campaign. While I was busy preparing my defense, my mother launched a full-on smear campaign against me. She told the entire extended family that I was greedy, that I was an ungrateful daughter who had stolen from them in their time of need. Relatives started reaching out, some just asked for my side of the story, while others screamed at me, calling me selfish, cruel, a disappointment. But the absolute worst was my grandmother's sister, Aunt Lydia. She was furious. Your parents took care of you for years, she spat over the phone. And this is how you repay them, by making them suffer? I clenched my teeth so hard I thought they might crack. Making them suffer? They left me to give birth alone, Aunt Lydia. They didn't care about me, not then, not now. She scoffed. Oh, please. They had an event to host, you could have waited. I hung up on her mid-sentence. At that point, I wasn't just angry, I was done. And if they wanted to play dirty, then I was about to show them just how ugly things could get. If they wanted war, I was ready to give them one. I wasn't some helpless little girl anymore. I had my own lawyer, my own money, and most importantly, I had receipts. Since I had been preparing to take full control of my trust fund for months, I had everything: bank statements, financial records, proof of withdrawals. Every single dollar they had taken was accounted for, and now I was going to use it. I countersued, not just to keep my money but to get back every cent they had stolen over the years. When my parents received my lawsuit, the calls and texts started again. My mom's. You can click on share and more to see if there is a part 2.